Emma had been working aboard the Celestial Harmony for 3 long years. Every single day was the same. She woke up before sunrise, put on her gray maid uniform and started her work. She cleaned the floors of the Imperial Palace. She dusted the golden furniture. She prepared drinks for the Vinthian nobles who never looked at her face. They treated her like she was not even a real person. To them she was just a thing that did work. Nothing more. The Vinthians were a tall, elegant species with smooth blue skin that seemed to glow under the starlight. They had been exploring space for thousands of years. They had built great cities on many planets. They believed they were the most intelligent and most advanced beings in the entire galaxy. When they looked at humans, they saw only simple creatures from a small planet. They did not see Emma as someone with a brain or knowledge or dreams. They saw a servant. That was all. Emma had studied medicine before she came to this ship. She had trained hard for 5 years to become a medical assistant. She had wanted to help people and save lives. But when the Vinthians hired her, they did not care about her training. They said humans could do simple jobs. Cleaning, cooking, carrying things. That was what they thought humans were good for. So Emma's medical certificate sat in her small room, unused and forgotten. Sometimes, late at night in her tiny sleeping quarters, Emma would look at those certificates and feel sad. She had worked so hard. She had studied difficult subjects like the human body, diseases, and how to treat emergencies. She had learned about different medicines and how they worked. She had practiced on training machines. But none of that mattered here. Nobody cared. Nobody asked. Nobody wanted to know that Emma was more than just a maid. One day everything changed. It started like any other day. Emma was cleaning the main hallway of the Imperial Palace when she heard shouting. The shouting came from the Emperor's private dining room. It was loud and panicked. Emma heard running feet. She heard voices calling out orders. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. Emperor Aldrich was the ruler of the entire Vinthian dominion. He was the most powerful being Emma had ever seen. He had ruled for 30 years and everyone respected him. Everyone feared him a little bit too. But right now he was in trouble. Emma should have just stayed away. The rules were very clear. Servants were not allowed in the Emperor's private areas unless they were called. If she went there without permission, she could lose her job. She could be sent back to Earth. But Emma heard something in those panicked voices that made her move forward anyway. She heard fear. Real desperate fear. She walked quietly toward the dining room and peeked inside. What she saw made her heart stop. Emperor Aldrich was lying on the floor. His blue skin looked wrong. It looked pale and grayish. His body was shaking. 2 Vinthian doctors were standing over him, shouting things at each other in their own language. One of them was pushing buttons on a strange silver machine. The other was pointing a glowing stick at the Emperor's chest. But nothing was working. The Emperor's eyes were rolling back. His breathing was very shallow. He looked like he was dying. Lord Marcus, the Emperor's first attendant, was standing to the side. He looked like he was about to cry. Emma had never seen a Vinthian look so scared before. Emma did not think. She just moved. She stepped into the room and walked straight to the Emperor's body. "I'm a medic." "Calm down," she said. Her voice was calm and strong. The 2 doctors turned to look at her. Their faces showed anger and surprise. How dare a human servant speak to them? How dare she come into this private room? They started to say something angry, but Emma was already kneeling next to the Emperor. She placed 2 fingers on his neck. She was checking his pulse. Her years of training came back to her in that moment. All those late nights studying. All those practice sessions. They were not forgotten. They were inside her, waiting for this moment. His heartbeat was very fast and very irregular. Emma could feel it jumping around under his skin like a scared animal. She looked at his face. His lips were turning slightly blue. His breathing was shallow and difficult. She recognized these signs. She knew what was happening. Emma looked at the Vinthian doctors. "What did he eat or drink?" she asked them. Dr. Theron, the older one, pointed at a cup on the table. "The ceremonial wine," he said. He sounded confused about why a human was asking questions. "But we do not understand. This wine is always safe for the Emperor." Emma understood immediately. She knew that humans and Vinthians had different bodies. What was safe for one species could be poison for another. She looked at the Emperor's symptoms again. His heart was racing. His body was shaking. His skin color was wrong. This looked like a severe allergic reaction. The Vinthian doctors had tried to make his heart beat faster and stronger. But that was wrong. His heart was already working too hard. It was like a machine that was running at top speed when it should be resting. They were making it worse. Emma looked at Lord Marcus. "I need a sedative. Something to make him sleep. Do you have that?" Lord Marcus nodded quickly. He was desperate. He did not care that Emma was human. He did not care about the rules. His emperor was dying. Yes, he said. Tell me what you need. Emma told him the exact medicine and the exact amount. She knew this from her studies. She had memorized how different species' bodies worked. Within seconds, Lord Marcus brought her a small silver container. Emma carefully gave the emperor the medicine. Then she did something that the Vinthian doctors had not done. She simply stayed with him. She held his hand. She talked to him in a soft, calm voice. I've got you, she whispered. You're going to be fine. Your heart is strong. Just needs to rest. Breathe slowly with me. In and out. In and out. Minutes passed. The emperor's breathing became slower and easier. His heartbeat became more regular. The terrible shaking stopped. His skin color started to look normal again. Emma sat beside the emperor and waited. She had done everything she could do. Now his body just needed time to recover. The Vinthian doctors stared at her in shock. They could not believe what they had just seen. A human had done what they could not do. A human had saved the emperor's life. Emma sat beside Emperor Aldrich and watched his breathing become steady and calm. His chest rose and fell in a normal, peaceful rhythm now. The terrible shaking had stopped. His skin was returning to its normal blue color. She could feel his pulse under her fingers and it was strong and regular. He was going to live. But the Vinthian doctors were not happy. Dr. Theron and Dr. Cassius stood on the other side of the emperor's body, and their faces showed anger and confusion. They looked at Emma like she was doing something wrong. They looked at her like she had no right to touch the emperor at all. Step away from the emperor immediately, Dr. Theron commanded. His voice was cold and harsh. You are a human. You are a servant. You have no business touching the ruler of our entire dominion. Emma did not move. She kept her hand on the emperor's wrist, monitoring his pulse. She knew what she was doing was right. She had learned this. She had trained for this. But she also knew that these doctors had studied for many years too. They had fancy machines and advanced technology. Yet they had almost let the emperor die because they did not understand his body correctly. The emperor is stable now, Emma said quietly. She did not argue with them. She did not raise her voice. She simply stated facts. His heart needed to rest, not to work harder. The ceremonial wine contains a compound that his body cannot process in large amounts. This caused an allergic reaction. The sedative I gave him has slowed his heart rate and allowed his body to recover naturally. Dr. Cassius laughed, but it was not a friendly laugh. It was mean and sharp. A human explaining medicine to us? He said. This is ridiculous. You know nothing. You are just a maid who cleans floors. How could you possibly understand Vinthian physiology better than we do? We have studied for decades. We have degrees from the greatest medical universities in the galaxy. Lord Marcus stepped forward. He had been standing silently in the corner of the room, watching everything happen. Now he spoke and his voice was very serious. The Emperor is alive because of this woman, he said. I do not care what her job is. I do not care if she is human. She saved his life when you two were failing. Emma could see the anger on the doctors' faces, but she did not care about their anger anymore. She had a job to do. She needed to keep the Emperor stable until he woke up. She needed to make sure his body did not have any more problems. She needed to watch him carefully through the night. He should not be moved, Emma said to Lord Marcus. She spoke as if the doctors were not even in the room. He needs to rest here for several hours. His body is recovering from a serious shock. Someone should stay with him and check on him regularly. His heartbeat should be checked every 15 minutes. If it becomes fast or irregular again, someone needs to tell me immediately. Lord Marcus nodded. He listened to every word Emma said. He treated her instructions like they were the most important things he had ever heard. This made Dr. Theron even more angry. You cannot give orders here, Dr. Theron shouted. His blue skin turned even darker with rage. Who do you think you are? You are nobody. You are a servant. But then something happened that stopped Dr. Theron from saying anything else. Emperor Aldrich opened his eyes. The Emperor's eyes were still a little bit unfocused, but he was conscious. He was awake. He looked at Emma first. He looked at her face for a long time, studying her like he was trying to remember something. Then he looked at his doctors. Then he looked at Lord Marcus. What happened? Emperor Aldrich asked. His voice was weak, but it was clear. Why am I on the floor? Lord Marcus quickly explained everything. He told the Emperor about the dinner. He told him about the sudden illness. He told him about how the doctors had tried to help but nothing was working. Then he told him about Emma. He told him how she had stepped in and given him medicine and saved his life. Emperor Aldrich turned his eyes back to Emma. He studied her carefully. "You are a servant," he said. It was not a question. He was just stating what he could see. "Yes, your majesty," Emma said. She was nervous now. She did not know what the emperor would do. Maybe he would be angry that she had touched him. Maybe he would punish her for breaking the rules. "I apologize for entering your private room without permission. I heard the emergency and I could not stay away." "Why?" the emperor asked. "Why could you not stay away? You are not a doctor. You are not responsible for my safety. You are a maid. You could have been punished for coming here." Emma thought about this question carefully. She wanted to tell him the truth. "Because you were dying," she said simply. "And I knew how to help. I could not let you die when I had the knowledge to save you." The emperor was quiet for a long time. He did not say anything. He just looked at Emma with an expression she could not read. Finally he spoke again. "You saved my life," he said. "You, a human servant, saved the life of the emperor of the Vinthian Dominion." "Yes, your majesty," Emma said. "How did you know what to do?" the emperor asked. "Our doctors could not help me. But you could. How is this possible?" Emma took a deep breath. This was the moment to tell him the truth about herself. This was the moment to tell him that she was not just a maid. "I am a trained medical assistant," she said. "I studied medicine on Earth for 5 years before I came to work on this ship. The Vinthians who hired me did not ask about my qualifications. They only saw a human, so they gave me work as a maid. My medical training has been in use for 3 years. But today it saved your life." The emperor said nothing. But Emma could see something changing in his eyes. She could see him thinking. She could see him realizing something important. He was beginning to understand that he had made a mistake. He was beginning to understand that humans were not as simple as he had thought. Dr. Theron and Dr. Cassius stood silently. They did not know what to say. Everything they believed about humans had just been proven wrong. The news spread through the imperial palace like fire through dry grass. Everyone was talking about what had happened. A human servant had saved the emperor's life. A human maid had done what the greatest Vinthian doctors could not do. People whispered about it in the hallways. They talked about it in the dining rooms. They discussed it in quiet corners where they thought nobody could hear them. The Vinthian people did not know what to think. For thousands of years, they had believed that they were superior to all other species in the galaxy. They had believed that their intelligence was greater, their knowledge was deeper, their abilities were stronger. But now, a human had proven them wrong in the most public way possible. The emperor himself had been saved by a human servant. Dr. Theron and Dr. Cassius requested a formal meeting with Emperor Aldrich. They wanted to explain themselves. They wanted to defend their actions and their medical knowledge. Emma was called to this meeting too. She stood in a large conference room with high ceilings and walls covered with pictures of great Vinthian leaders from history. She felt very small in this room. The doctor spoke first. Dr. Theron explained that they had followed the proper medical procedures. They had used the most advanced technology available. They had done everything correctly according to Vinthian medical science. But the emperor was not getting better. This was confusing to them because they could not understand why their methods were failing. "The human was lucky," Dr. Cassius said. His voice was bitter. "She happened to guess the right treatment by chance. That is all. It was not real medical knowledge. It was just luck." Emma listened to this and she felt angry. But she controlled her anger and spoke calmly. "It was not luck," she said. "I recognized the symptoms of an allergic reaction. Your Majesty's skin showed the signs." His breathing was shallow. His heart was racing irregularly. These are classic symptoms that every medical student learns about, regardless of their species. "But you are human," Dr. Theron said. He looked confused. "How would you know about Vinthian allergic reactions? Your species is completely different from ours." "I studied your biology," Emma said. She stood straight and looked directly at the doctors. "I studied it very carefully. Before I came to work here, I learned everything I could about Vinthian bodies. I learned about your organs, your chemistry, your diseases. I learned because I wanted to do my job well. I wanted to help people." Emperor Aldrich was sitting in a large chair at the head of the table. He was listening to every word. He looked strong and healthy now. His recovery had been quick. But his expression was serious and thoughtful. "Tell me something, Dr. Theron," the emperor said. "Have you ever treated an allergic reaction in a conscious patient? Have you ever had to make quick decisions without machines to help you?" Dr. Theron did not answer right away. He looked uncomfortable. "Well, no, Your Majesty," he finally said. We have technology to handle such situations. We do not need to make quick decisions. The machines analyze the problem and provide the correct treatment. And what happened when the machines did not work? Emperor Aldrich asked. The room became very quiet. Everyone knew the answer. The machines had not worked. The technology had failed. The emperor had been dying and the doctors had not known what to do. I see, said Emperor Aldrich. He turned to Emma. You did not have machines to rely on, did you? You had to use your knowledge and your thinking skills. No, Your Majesty, Emma said. I only had what I learned and what I could observe. I had to think carefully about the symptoms and what they meant. Dr. Cassius looked frustrated. This is not fair, he said. We have spent our entire lives studying medicine. We have earned our degrees from the most respected universities. And now we are being questioned because of a lucky guess from a servant. Emma felt something rise inside her. She was tired of being treated like she was less than these doctors. She was tired of being invisible. She decided to speak boldly. You studied theory, Emma said. Her voice was quiet but very clear. You learned from books and machines and lectures. But you never had to think on your feet. You never had to solve a problem when you did not have your equipment. You never had to make life and death decisions in an emergency. I have done this many times. I have worked with limited resources and difficult situations. I have learned to think, not just to follow procedures. The doctors' faces turned red with anger. But they could not argue. Everything Emma said was true. Emperor Aldrich stood up from his chair. Everyone in the room became silent immediately. The emperor's voice was very serious when he spoke. The uncomfortable truth, he said, is that we have made mistakes. We have believed that because we are Vinthian we are always right. We have believed that because we are advanced we cannot fail. But we were wrong. He looked at Dr. Theron and Dr. Cassius. You are good doctors, he said. But you are not perfect. And that is difficult to accept, I understand. It is difficult to realize that a human servant knows something that you do not know. Then Emperor Aldrich looked at Emma. And you, he said, are not just a servant. You are a medical professional. Your species does not matter. Your job does not matter. Your knowledge is real and valuable. Emma felt tears in her eyes, but she tried not to show them. For 3 years, nobody had recognized her value. Now the emperor himself was telling her that she mattered. I want to understand something, the emperor continued. Why did you not tell anyone about your medical training? Why did you accept a job as a maid when you had qualifications to do something much better? Emma thought about this question. It was a good question. Because nobody asked, she said simply. The Vinthians who hired me looked at me and saw a human. They decided what I could do based on my species, not based on my abilities. I tried to explain my training, but nobody wanted to listen. The emperor nodded slowly. He was understanding something very important. He was understanding that his entire civilization had been making assumptions about other species. And those assumptions had been wrong. News of what had happened at the Imperial Palace traveled across the entire Vinthian dominion like lightning. Every planet, every space station, every ship received the message. A human had saved the emperor. Not through luck or accident, but through real medical knowledge and quick thinking. The story was told and retold. It was discussed in offices and homes and schools. People could not stop talking about it. The reaction was enormous. For the first time in thousands of years, the Vinthian people were questioning their beliefs about other species. If a human could be more skilled than Vinthian doctors, what else had they been wrong about? What other species had they underestimated? What other talents and abilities had they ignored? Emperor Aldrich called a great assembly. All the important leaders and officials of the Vinthian Dominion gathered in the main hall of the palace. The hall was enormous, with crystal walls and a ceiling so high that it seemed to touch the stars. Thousands of Vinthians sat in rows, waiting to hear what the emperor would say. Emma stood backstage, nervous and uncertain. She had never been important before. She had never been the center of attention. Now the emperor wanted her to speak to all these powerful people. She was terrified. Lord Marcus found her before she had to go on stage. He put a hand on her shoulder. You will be fine, he said kindly. You have already changed the emperor's mind. Now you will help change the minds of everyone else. Emma took a deep breath and walked onto the stage. Thousands of eyes turned to look at her. She was a tiny human figure standing in a huge hall full of tall, elegant Vinthians. But she stood up straight and spoke clearly. She told them her story. She told them about her medical training on Earth. She told them about how nobody had asked about her qualifications. She told them about how she had been treated as invisible for 3 years. She told them about the night the emperor became ill, and how she had to choose between following rules and saving a life. The assembly was completely silent as Emma spoke. When she finished, there was a long moment of quiet. Then suddenly applause began. It started slowly, then grew louder and louder until the entire hall was filled with the sound of clapping hands. Emperor Aldrich stood up. He walked to Emma and stood beside her. "Today," he said to the assembly, "I am announcing a new order for the Vinthian Dominion. We have made mistakes in how we treat other species. We have assumed that we are superior. We have wasted talents and abilities that could have helped us all. This will change." The Emperor announced several new laws and policies. First, any human working for the Vinthians would have their qualifications reviewed and recognized. If they were trained in medicine, science, engineering, or any other field, they would be given positions that matched their abilities. They would no longer be forced to do only simple work. Second, a new medical exchange program would be created. Vinthian doctors would study alongside human doctors. They would learn from each other. They would share knowledge and techniques. The goal was to combine Vinthian technology with human practical experience to create something better than either species could create alone. Third, and most importantly, the Emperor announced that other species would also be given the same opportunities. The Vinthian Dominion would begin to treat all species with respect and recognition. They would no longer assume that Vinthians were superior to everyone else. Dr. Theron and Dr. Cassius were standing in the audience. At first they looked uncomfortable and embarrassed. But as the Emperor spoke, something changed in their faces. They began to understand that this was not about shame or punishment. It was about learning. It was about becoming better. Emma was offered many positions. She could become the Emperor's personal medical advisor. She could lead the new medical institute. She could travel to other planets and teach other humans how to work in Vinthian medicine. It was overwhelming. There were so many opportunities that she did not know which one to choose. She asked for time to think. The Emperor gave her 1 week to decide. Emma spent that week walking through the Imperial Palace and talking to people. She talked to other human servants. She asked them about their dreams and their abilities. She learned that many of them had talents that were being wasted, just like her talent had been wasted. She realized that she did not want to just help herself. She wanted to help all humans. She wanted to change the entire system so that people like her would never be invisible again. When she met with the Emperor to tell him her decision, she made one request. "I will accept the position of medical advisor," she said. "But I want one condition. Other humans must be brought into positions of real authority. Not as tokens or symbols. As real professionals doing real work. I want other human doctors to work alongside me. I want other humans to lead departments and make important decisions." Emperor Aldrich smiled. "That is exactly what I hoped you would ask for," he said. "I did not want to fix just your situation, Emma. I wanted to fix the situation for all humans. For all species. Your condition is not just acceptable. It is exactly what should happen." Over the following months, everything changed. The Institute of Cross-Species Medicine was built. It was a beautiful building with laboratories and classrooms and hospitals. Vinthian doctors worked side by side with human doctors. They learned from each other. They helped each other. They created new treatments and new methods that neither species could have created alone. Lord Marcus became Emma's closest friend and ally. He helped her navigate the complicated world of Vinthian politics and society. He helped her push for more changes and more recognition for humans and other species. Other humans on the Vinthian ships were evaluated and given new positions. Some became engineers. Some became scientists. Some became teachers. They were no longer invisible. They were no longer treated as less valuable than Vinthians. They were recognized as valuable members of society. The galaxy watched what was happening in the Vinthian Dominion. If the proud and powerful Vinthians could change their beliefs and treat other species with respect, perhaps other civilizations could do the same. A new age was beginning. An age where different species would work together instead of looking down on each other. It all started with one human maid who refused to be invisible. It started with one doctor who was willing to listen when everyone else was panicking. 6 months had passed since that night when Emma saved the Emperor's life. The Institute of Cross-Species Medicine was now complete and fully operational. It was a magnificent building that stood at the center of the capital city of the Vinthian Dominion. The walls were made of white stone that glowed softly in the sunlight. Inside, there were laboratories with the most advanced equipment in the galaxy. There were classrooms where students learned together. There were hospitals where patients from many different species came to be healed. Emma walked through the institute's hallways on a warm afternoon. Students were everywhere. Human students and Vinthian students studied together in the same rooms. They worked on the same projects. They helped each other solve difficult problems. This sight, which would have been impossible 6 months ago, now seemed completely normal. In one laboratory, a human named David and a Vinthian named Keshen were working together on a new medicine. They were studying how to treat a disease that affected both humans and Vinthians. David was explaining his ideas while Keshen listened carefully and added his own thoughts. They were equals. They were partners. This was the new way things worked at the Institute. In a classroom, a Vinthian teacher was teaching a group of mixed students about human anatomy. The Vinthian teacher, who had trained under Emma's guidance, explained how human bodies worked differently from Vinthian bodies. The students, both human and Vinthian, took notes and asked questions. Understanding differences was now seen as important and valuable. Emma stopped at the window of her office and looked out at the city below. Her office was large and comfortable. On her desk were pictures of the night she saved the Emperor. There were also pictures of the Medical Institute opening day. There were pictures of her with other doctors and scientists. But the picture that meant the most to her was a simple photo of herself with 5 other human servants. They had all been promoted to important positions at the Institute. They had all been given recognition for their abilities. There was a knock on her door. Lord Marcus entered, smiling warmly. He was now the director of interspecies relations for the entire Vinthian Dominion. His job was to make sure that all species were treated fairly and given equal opportunities. "The Emperor is arriving soon," Lord Marcus said. "He wants to see you before the ceremony begins." Today was a special day. It was the day when the Institute would officially present its first research to the galaxy. The research showed how human doctors and Vinthian doctors working together had created 3 new treatments for serious diseases. These treatments worked better than anything either species could have created alone. This was proof that working together was better than working separately. Emma nodded and stood up. She was still nervous when she had to meet with the Emperor, even though she had worked with him for 6 months. Emperor Aldrich had become her friend and her supporter, but he was still the most powerful being in the Dominion. She still felt the weight of that whenever she was in his presence. The Emperor was waiting in the main hall of the Institute. He looked healthy and strong. His heart was completely healed now. He had become very interested in medicine and often visited the Institute to see what the doctors were working on. When Emperor Aldrich saw Emma, he smiled and walked toward her. He greeted her as an equal, not as a servant. This was another change that had happened. The Emperor treated Emma with the same respect he would show to any high official of the Dominion. "Emma," the Emperor said, "I wanted to speak with you before the ceremony. I have been thinking about something very important." They walked together through the Institute. The Emperor pointed out different areas and asked Emma questions about the work being done there. He wanted to understand everything. He wanted to know how the Institute was helping people. "Do you know what I realized?" the Emperor said as they walked. "That night when I was dying, I thought my life was over. I thought my body had betrayed me. But you showed me something different. You showed me that my problem was not that my body was weak. My problem was that the people trying to help me did not understand how to work with my body. They tried to force treatments that did not fit my needs." Emma listened carefully. She understood what he was saying. "And then I realized," the Emperor continued, "that this is what we have been doing to other species for thousands of years. We have been trying to force our ways onto them. We have been assuming that our way is the only right way. But just like my doctors needed to learn a new way to help me, we needed to learn a new way to work with other species." They stopped in front of a large window that looked out at the city. Outside, Emma could see humans and Vinthians walking together on the streets. They were talking and laughing. They were working together on construction projects and business ventures. The city itself was changing because of what had started at the Medical Institute. "You did not just save my life," the Emperor said. "You saved the future of the Vinthian Dominion. You showed us that we needed to change. You showed us that change was possible." Emma felt tears in her eyes. She thought about her 3 years as an invisible maid. She thought about how she had almost given up on her dreams. She thought about how one moment of courage had changed everything. "Thank you, Your Majesty," she said softly. "No," the Emperor said, "I should thank you." The ceremony that evening was attended by thousands of people. Scientists and doctors from many different planets came to see what had been accomplished. They saw the research. They saw the Institute. They saw human and Vinthian doctors working together as equals. But the most important moment came when the Emperor stood up to speak. He told the story of that night. He told about how the greatest Vinthian doctors had failed. He told about how a human servant had succeeded. He told about how this single event had changed an entire civilization. "We learned a hard lesson," the Emperor said to the assembly. We learned that intelligence and ability are not determined by species. We learned that different perspectives and different experiences can create something wonderful when they come together. We learned this from Emma, a human doctor who refused to be invisible. The audience applauded loudly. Emma stood with the other doctors, feeling proud but humble. She knew that this was just the beginning. There was still so much work to do. There were still other species in the galaxy who were being treated unfairly. There were still prejudices to overcome and walls to break down. But as she looked around the institute at all the people working together, she felt hope. She felt like the galaxy might actually be changing. One person's courage had started a transformation that would ripple across worlds and across time. The medic's legacy was not just about saving one emperor's life. It was about saving the future of an entire civilization. It was about showing that when you refuse to be invisible, when you stand up for what is right, when you have courage in the face of danger, you can change the world. Emma looked out at the stars beyond the city and smiled. The galaxy was vast and there was still so much healing to do. But now she was not doing it alone. Now she had allies from many species. Now the whole Dominion was working together to create a better future.